Welcome back, you boats and fans. Thank you once again for tuning in. Today I have a very long and interesting video for you guys. It's been a while since I posted an update, and I'm also going to do something unusual, which is to dive into some of the development aspect of the game so you guys can see behind the scenes. Hopefully this keeps you guys very interested in what's to come, even though a lot of the changes you see today haven't yet been pushed out because I'm in the middle of making a lot of changes. Hopefully within a week or two you guys can get your hands on all of these changes on itch.io. Before I dive in, however, I wanted to address two items. The first item is we have two new members that have joined the core development team. So it will no longer just be myself working on this. We now have two folks. You can find them on Discord. You can talk to them. We have Jamasito and Prophet. They're going to be contributing to the development aspect of the game. They're going to be contributing to the research, community outreach, and we also have about 3 asset contributors that are participating as well, donating models and working on other elements that will go into the game. So I'm very excited to announce that. I also wanted to bring up that Black Lives Matter. If you guys have an issue with that statement or discrimination or oppression, I really don't think you're mature enough to really look at a sim such as U-Boat Sim that deals with very difficult historical aspects of our society and our world. As I mentioned in the About Us in the game, I do not promote the views or opinions of the Nazis. I am building a game due to my passion for the technology and also to respect history. I want to make sure that that history does not get lost. So I wanted to share that with you guys. I have been actively protesting, and that is my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on the subject matter. With that being said, let's get started with scheduled programming of reviewing some of the updates that are in flight. So the first item I want to tackle is what we call the character controller. The character controller is the system that allows you to behave as a character in the world and interact with the world itself. Not only has the base model been updated and will be modified with appropriate time period clothing, the character controller itself, the underlying physics systems and everything is being worked on. So the animation system, the footstep system, so being able to hear the different objects you're walking on, they're all being retrofitted or refactored right now. The interaction system, whether it's climbing on a ladder or stepping on a dynamic physics object such as a boat demos in the world, that's also being refactored. As you can see, due to a lot of the bugs that are apparent, I'm not going to release this until it's working really well, but that's in flight just so you guys are aware of that. Inside the boat there have been a lot of changes under the hood as well. So that'll eventually come out when it's ready. Some of the diesel engine room compartments, the floor sizing, all of that has been updated to be a lot more accurate. You guys can see color of the engines I keep tweaking. The sound of the engine is a lot more realistic now. So if we have a listen, you can hear a completely different tone to it. Also, one of the updates that will come along with these will be a reverser handle. In the real U-boats, there was no reverse gear, so they had an extra handle here that's currently not modeled that will allow you to reverse the engines. So the entire engine stopping, starting, and reversing procedure will be modified a bit to reflect that more accurately, and you'll be able to eventually use the supercharger handle. So above 420 RPM, you could turn the superchargers on to get extra horsepower at the cost of diesel consumption. And I'm going to make a few more updates to the electric engine room. The goal will be really soon to allow you to run both diesels and electrics and be able to jump into all the nitty-gritty of the simulation of swapping over, turning clutches on and off. There's a hydraulic clutch activator that will go on the wall here. So that'll be simulated really soon. In addition, we do have localization now being baked in. So you can see here, if you choose something like Japanese, the entire game adapts to that locality. So that's not ready to go yet, but however it is in flight. Initial set of languages include German, Dutch, Russian, Romanian, Spanish, French, Italian, and Japanese. More can be added, and if you'd like to help translate any portion of the game, please reach out to us on Discord. We would certainly appreciate the help. Another feature that has been added, at least in prototype form, are torpedoes. So by pressing T, you can actually see that we spin up a G70 torpedo. It's got the sound, and the G70 didn't really leave bubbles, but this is just an example of what the steam-propelled torpedoes will do. So we're slowly working on adding more and more of the systems to get to a point where you could actually sink a ship with a U-boat. We have, now you can see the merchant here is actually running away. I will take this opportunity to talk a little bit about what the AI subsystem looks like, and this is where I'll get into kind of behind the scenes game development. So I'll jump into that if you stick around. However, before I do that, I want to show you one last addition. By pressing the U key, you get this debug system that I put together just to allow you to play with the environment and get a feel for what is possible and what will automatically basically happen in terms of the environment. So we could change the date, month, and year of the game at any time, and the game will not only change the visual settings, but if we look at the starscape, you see how that rotates to automatically match your longitude and latitude. So when you try to find your coordinates with a sextant, you'll be able to do that based on what's being simulated. Again, proper date, month, year being taken into account. The weather system has things like rain, snow, fog, lightning, thunder. I'm just bringing a few of these up to the surface so you guys can get a feel for what's possible again. And the wave system, the ocean system, has settings to modify the ocean itself. This is just a few of those items being brought forth to the surface. Again, that's the U key. I also want to show off that the multiplayer subsystem is also being considered in all of this development. So yes, multiplayer still works, and everything I mentioned, you can see here, is synchronized. So the boat itself is synchronized, and then we have things such as the water, ocean system, time system, everything being synchronized on both sides. So all of that is being taken into account. If we look at the merchant moving, we can see that it's moving in both at the same time. And here is a behind the scenes preview of some of the cool systems that we now have in play. What you see here is our threading system, multi-threading system. We spin up one worker thread per CPU core, minus the main core being left alone to perform the main game loop. And we have basically a thread watcher system that allows us to schedule a bunch of background task work, and that work is then distributed evenly amongst all of the available cores. This will allow us to do a lot of realistic simulation work under the hood without affecting FPS. So we can schedule these simulation jobs on a background thread, and once they're done processing, we could just marshal that computed data onto the main thread for visualization inside of the main game itself. So things such as buoyancy calculations, calculations for the high pressure air system, for the water flow, all that does not need to happen in the main thread, which is usually very busy with trying to render the game. So we have that entire subsystem ready to go, and we're looking forward to using it. Now let's talk about a little bit about this merchant that's running away. A very simplistic and naive implementation of an AI would be a state machine that says, what is my current state and what should I do? Should I run away? Should I search for an enemy, etc.? We've decided to take a much different implementation that's a little bit more scalable, and I think will work really well inside of U-Boat Sim. What we have here is something called GOAP, or Goal-Oriented Action Planning. This is a AI subsystem which begins with an entity or an actor, in this case the Liberty ship, and a set of goals that ship would like to achieve. The goal might be to participate in a convoy and reach a destination, or in this case it might be to flee because it has detected an enemy unit. Once that list of goals is calculated and the ones which are addressable are identified, right? For instance, you don't have to flee unless there's an enemy nearby. However, if there's an enemy, you now have this goal. This goal, once it's available for consideration, will be computed against all other goals that can happen. And based on the weights and the intensity of the desire to fill that goal, a goal is chosen. And this is dynamic and is constantly being evaluated on the background threads I mentioned. Next, what the system does is, in order to satisfy that goal, it basically goes over a large list of possible actions that may contribute to fulfilling that goal. So in this case, one action is to flee. And you could imagine a number of actions all being chained together that would contribute to that goal. The goal might be to flee, and then there might be a prerequisite action that says, well, in order to flee, I must move to this coordinate. Another goal might be to flee left because a destroyer wants to come to the right and try and attack the U-boat. But this type of scalable system will allow us to have very advanced AI that allows the AI to basically coordinate with each other. This is how we could get proper AI where maybe a plane might coordinate with the convoy and say, I'm going to, bombard the U-boat that I'm seeing trailing you, flank left or something like that, what have you. So that's behind the scenes the AI framework we've chosen to go with. And as you can see now, the Liberty ship has no goals. It completed its goal or objective of fleeing. It fled. It's now out of sight. It can no longer see any enemies, whether that's a destroyer or a U-boat, because it's far enough. And for now, there are no other goals it's trying to achieve. So it's just going to idle there. Each dynamic entity in the game, whether it be a U-boat, a tank, an airplane, a train, all of those different entities all have an allegiance to a nation. So they're able to identify friend or foe with some sort of precision. And the GOAP framework takes all that into account. So based on an enemy's ability to identify friend or foe, they might investigate, or they might go directly for the kill. All of that will be computed again in massive parallelism in the background threads, which will allow us to have AI that's much more realistic than a simple plain system that relies on very direct and straightforward computations. It will also create some challenges for us. We won't be able to script every action and reaction. So we must do our best to do our research and make sure that when we create these types of interactions, we ensure that we're feeding the system with enough data. The other thing I did want to mention is that the entities themselves are not being artificially fed any information they cannot see or feel for themselves. Each entity has what we call sensors, and those sensors feed that entity with information. A sensor might be what they can see via binoculars. It might be what they could hear via hydrophones. It could be the radio emissions they can detect, and so on. So that entity will not be artificially fed any type of information that it's not able to acquire. So if the hydrophone is damaged, the binoculars are damaged, or their radio communications are down, they will no longer be able to coordinate with the convoy or with other escort units. We want to, again, make this as realistic as possible while also introducing an error threshold in there. Nobody's perfect, humans are perfect, so we want to simulate that. So when you engage with an enemy, it's not like after 10 minutes exactly, they stop chasing you, right? We want to have a very complex GOAP-based decision tree in there that allows them to make considerations based on the particular captain's experience, their crew's experience, their ability to detect you with their equipment, the damage level of their equipment, and so on. So hopefully you guys find this type of back-end developer insight into how we're building this very interesting. If you leave some comments and you want me to do more of these, I'll be more than happy to share these with you. Otherwise, I'll stick just straight to the game updates where you can actually see, feel, and play the updates without seeing behind the scenes. So thank you guys again for tuning in. I know this was a long one. Hopefully you're looking forward to the next one as much as I am. And please join our Discord if you haven't. We're very active on there. And a lot of you, thank you very much, have contributed amazingly to our ability to research a lot of the little minutia to make this as realistic as possible. Take care. Until next time.